Okay, I'm going to show you how to make my French baguettes. And this will be the evening before you're going to actually make the baguettes. So we make what's called poulish now, and then we'll let it sit until tomorrow morning. And that's the time we'll get started on the bread. So let me just put you down here for a second, get this thing set up so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, the poulish is sort of like a starter, and we start with about 8 ounces of cool water, and I put in about a half teaspoon of yeast, and I like to whisk that up, make sure it's all nice and worked in, okay? And then we add in about a cup and a quarter of bread flour. Here's a cup. And a quarter. And then we just mix that up until it's good and combined. It shouldn't be too runny, but it's going to be wet. And then it's a little bit too wet like this is. I'll put in, let's see, it's a little bit too wet. Put a little bit more flour. And get that mixed up. Okay, so you can see that that's probably about how it should be. And once you got that mixed up, then you just cover it with plastic wrap and leave it until tomorrow morning. And at that point, we're going to get started on making the bread. Okay, so it's about 6 o'clock in the morning. Hope you had a good night's sleep. Now we're going to get going on making these baguettes. So first thing I want to do though is show you a little bit of some of the equipment that you're probably going to want to have. So let me do that. Okay, first we have the pizza stone. Now I have a round one I've had for many years, but it's 16 inches in diameter, which means that only one of my baguettes can be 16 inches long. So I purchased this one, which is 16 by 14, and all these things here you can get on Amazon. And this one I've used a couple of times, it works really well. So you might want to think about getting that. Next we have what's called a couche. This is a heavy linen proofing cloth. It's kind of like canvas, and it's not folded out all the way, but it will be later. I'll show you that. But we use this to allow the final proofing of the baguettes to occur so that they're nicely shaped. Here we have what's called the lame, and it is for scoring the baguettes or other bread that you would make. Frankly, I've never really had much luck with this thing. I can't seem to make it work well, and I've watched videos to see how you do it, and I just can't seem to recreate it. So I usually use just a sharp knife, and then of course that's just a tape measure because I want to make sure that my baguettes are all about 16 inches long. Okay, here we are at the counter again, and I wanted to show you the poulish. Get this unwrapped here, if I can. And you can see that it's really nice and fermented. The yeast has done its job really beautifully. Now what we need to do is the next step in the recipe, which is to take about 9 ounces, not inches, of cool water and combine the Polish, actually just using a spatula, get the Polish into the water like that. Now, we also need to have about a rounded half teaspoon of yeast, and you really want to put this in before you do the Polish. I just made a mistake there. But what I'm going to do is just reach in, push the Polish aside, get the yeast in there, and whisk it up a bit. And this should still work out just fine. If it doesn't, we'll find out later today in the morning. So next, we want to put in about 2.5 cups of bread flour, and my container is getting a little empty. I think I'll have 2.5 in here. So put 1, 2, and a half. And then about a tablespoon of salt. And they say to put the salt in on top of the flour so that it doesn't mix immediately directly with the yeast, because supposedly it will kill the yeast. I'm a little surprised at that, but I always follow that direction. Just in case, I've certainly added salt to yeast many times. I've mixed them right together in making various bread products and so forth, or loaves of bread. But I do it that way because that's how I was instructed. So you mix this up good. Nice heavy wooden spoon is really good for this. Just keep mixing it until it's all pretty well combined and you don't have flour that's not mixed in. Gets pretty stiff, which is what you want. It's looking pretty good. I don't know if you can see that or not, but give it a little bit more. So I think that's good. I always like to keep every little bit of the dough that I can. There. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to cover this and leave it for about 15 minutes, and then we'll get started on it. Okay, it's been 15 minutes, so we're going to take the dough out of the bowl and put it on a floured surface here, my counter space. Let's get this all out of there. There we go. Now we need to work this a bit. Don't use a lot of flour because we don't want to change the dry wet moisture, dry wet ratio very much, but kind of just stretch it, you know, and keep trying to stretch it and fold it. And we keep this up for about 10 or 15 minutes until the dough is nice and tight, and it's a little bit messy and a little bit sticky, and it does take some time, but it all works out just fine. So I'll stretch it and fold it, stretch it and fold it. This partly, I think, to knead it, you know, and strengthen those gluten strands and bonds, and make it become a nice loaf. So I'm not gonna continue this much at this point. I'm gonna stop the video, keep doing this, but I'm gonna do this for about 15 minutes. Okay, so it's been about 15 minutes, and you know, this is feeling pretty good here. This feels pretty good and tight. So what we're going to do now is put a little bit of olive oil, not very much, just a small amount in this bowl. And we're going to form the dough into a nice ball. I usually do it like this. You can use a scraper to kind of form it too, but then we take that and put it in, you know, roll it around in the olive oil so it's coated. And then I will cover this with plastic wrap, and we're going to let it sit for about an hour, and it will expand a bit, and then we'll do some stretching and folding. I'll show you how to do that. So that's our next step. Okay, it's just about 7:30, so it's been about an hour, and we'll take the plastic wrap off. I usually put it up here so I can use it over again. And you can see that this has expanded quite a bit. And what we're going to do is what's called a stretch and fold technique. And what you want to do is get your hand wet, run it under the water, and then get in here and loosen it from the sides. And then you grab one side down underneath about the middle and pull it up. Fold it down. So you stretch and fold. You do this 4 times. Okay, one on each side, essentially. It's round, but you have to assume there are sides here. Let it fall down, fold it over, and then the last time. Now you can do it more than that. Of course, you can do 5, like this. All right. What we're doing is we're strengthening those gluten strands. So we're going to do this a total of 3 times. I'll show you each time because the dough does change a bit. But anyway, so this is our first stretch and fold. And we're going to wait another hour with it covered, just like before. And then we're going to do this again. Okay, it's not quite an hour. It's about 50 minutes later, but this is looking really good. So I decided not to wait an hour. As you can see, it's expanded quite a lot. So I'm going to do another stretch and fold. Get my hand wet, pull it away from the sides. There we go. And we'll do the first one. Pull it up, fold it down, pull it up, fold it down. Get my hand wet again. Another stretch. When you do this, it does expand a lot and becomes very soft. But as you stretch it, it does start to tighten up a bit. You can see it's not falling down quite as easily. So that's a good sign. So if we want to see, I'm going to give it another one. All right, there we go. Going to cover that up, wait about another 45 minutes or an hour, and do the last stretch and fold. Okay, it's been about 45 minutes and the dough looks really good. So I'll show that to you in a minute. I'm going to show you how to do the last stretch and fold, which is basically the same as the first two, and then how to form the baguettes. And then I'll show you how to put them over into the couche so that they can do their final proof. And but right now, I'm going to get this thing set up on my tripod again. And we'll do that, and we'll keep moving forward. Okay, so get this off. As you can see, the dough has really risen quite a bit here. So, and it's only been about 40 minutes since the last stretch and fold. So what we're going to do is put some flour up here so it doesn't stick too much. But we want to leave this area down here without flour because this is where we're going to be forming the baguettes. And if we have flour here, it's just going to slide instead of rolling, and so that wouldn't work very well. So once again, wet my hands, hold away, and do the stretching. Now this is still going to have a lot of air in it. I mean, this is very, very soft. So we're going to end up getting some of the air out of it. But we don't want to be deflating it totally. That's just not the goal. So now we want to form 3 baguettes. So we need to divide this dough into thirds. So we'll put it on a scale first here. And we have exactly 52 ounces. So we'll take the dough out, put it here where I put the flour, and then weigh the bowl, and we have 8 ounces. So we have a total of 44 ounces, about a little bit less than that actually. So if we divide 44 by 3, we get around 13, if I'm not mistaken. So let's see, 44 divided by 3, 1 and then 14 and 3 into 14. That's almost, no, that's 14, almost 15. Okay, well, you want to do your calculations correctly. So we're going to get this a little bit floured. Okay, so using my pastry scraper, we're going to see if we can cut off about 15 ounces here. This is probably a little short of that. 12.6. 14.65. That's good. So we'll put that right here. Just leave it for a little bit. And we gotta zero this thing out again. Okay. Now we'll cut this one about half, hopefully. Okay. 16.1. This is obviously less than that. Feels much less than that. It's only about 13 1/3. So let's see if we can even these out at about 14 something. That's 14.8. 14.6, so we're good. These are good. We'll get rid of this. Okay, now what we want to do is see if we can get these shaped well. And again, just a little bit of flour there. So what we're going to do is kind of fold these over a little bit and then stretch it out a bit. Okay, that kind of a shape. Fold the top down about 2/3 to there. Turn around, fold this top down to about 2/3, and then seal that seam. Keep that air sealed in there. And once we've done that, then we're going to roll the baguette out. I'm using my ruler there as an estimator, try to get about 16 inches. And then we're going to take it over and put it on the couche. But for right now, what I'm going to do is stop this, go over and show you how we do the couche. Okay, so here's the couche. And I put this bowl here to kind of keep it from sliding. And what we want to do is kind of lift it up here and create a little fold there, a little hill, sort of. And what I like to do is cut strips of parchment paper to put the baguettes on so that they slide off of the couche easily when it's time and they don't stick. Now you're going to want to have this couche be pretty floured, and it's possible, it's actually stated in many of the recipes that you can use just a towel for this. It's not quite as stiff. It would still work well, but you want to make sure that it has a good amount of flour so your baguettes don't stick. So I'm going to leave that there, and we're going to show you how to do the one baguette, and then we're going to get the other ones done. So back to the counter. Okay, so we take this one that we got all sealed up and get a little bit of flour on it so it does move a bit, but not be too floury. And then we want to just roll it out into a long baguette. Start in the center, roll it. You want to roll it kind of hard so that it, there we go. Now it's getting pretty sticky, so I'm going to get a little bit of flour on it. Not too much, but some. It needs that kind of balance between being sticky enough that it doesn't just slide on the counter, but enough flour on it so it will not stick entirely. Okay, and it takes a little bit of messing around typically. So we roll it out, get it all the way out here. So we want to do it about 16 inches. Let's take a look. That's 16 inches. So now we're going to take this, pick it up, and just walk it over to the couche. Okay, so I'm bringing it over here, put it down on the parchment paper, like that. Make sure it's got parchment paper all around it. We're going to have to take these off of the couche and put them on a, if you have a pizza peel wide enough, mine's only 14 inches, so I can't use my pizza peel. I use a flat cookie tray, which I'll show you later, but we want to be able to get it off of this onto the tray without it sticking. But just as importantly, more importantly, is to have it come off the tray onto the pizza stone in the oven, to have it happen smoothly. Now you kind of fold this up. And what we need to do then, because it'll keep sliding away, is get a weight for the other end. And then we just leave it like this and let it proof for another 45 minutes or an hour until it's, you know, nice and risen. So let me get that done while I turn off the video camera here. Okay, well, these are not the most exquisitely formed baguettes I've ever made, but I think they're going to end up just fine. So we got 3 of them now, and what we're going to do now is to preheat the oven and the pizza stone in preparation for baking them. So let me turn this off and then I'll show you that. Okay, there we go. Got the pizza stone in the oven, and I have a metal pan sitting on the bottom of the oven, and I took out the bottom rack, and I did that because it's easier to toss the ice cubes into that pan if there's not a rack in the way. I found that out when I tried to toss them in the first time, and they went all over the inside. So take that rack out first. After we put the baguettes on the pizza stone, you will throw 3 or 4 ice cubes in that metal. What I'm using is a cake pan. And it will create instant steam, which will help make a really nice crusty crust. So I'm gonna preheat the oven now to 500 degrees, and then when the baguettes are ready, we'll put them in. Okay, so this is always the trickiest part for me because I don't have a time for them to raise. So you gotta kind of I just have to try to figure it out by how they look. I put flour on this just in case some of the baguette itself touches, and so it won't stick. So just slide this across here, and then slide this like that. And now for me, the most frustrating and difficult part is the scoring them. So I'm gonna give it a shot with the lame and see how this works today. You just slice it down, 3 scores like that. Actually, that worked pretty well. I'm gonna do it again here. Just long overlapping scores. And there you go. Okay, so now we'll put them in the oven. We'll see how it goes. Throw the ice cubes in. Close the door. And now we're going to let them bake for 20 minutes and we'll see how they look. Okay, so they're baking now, and actually they look pretty good. So I'm kind of happy with the way they're turning out so far. One thing to keep in mind is, you know, everybody likes them differently and ovens are all different and so forth. So while they're baking, and almost everybody's going to already know this, but I feel the need to say it anyway, keep an eye on them probably after like 15 minutes. If they look like they're getting, you know, darker than you want them to be, just pull off a piece of tin foil and put it over top of them, and that should stop them from browning. Yeah, they're almost done. So I'm going to turn this off, and then when they're ready, we'll take a look at them. Okay. I think they're done. So let's get them out. I'm going to use my pizza peel because I got one. But obviously you could just grab them with your oven mitt if you wanted to, and that would work fine. Pull out the parchment paper. There we go. Close that back up. And so here they are. And I think they look pretty good. This one is a little malformed, but they'll eat okay, I think. So, yeah. nice and crusty. Take this one, put it over there, because what I'd like to do is to cut into it and see how the crumb looks. So I'm going to turn this off, slice it, and show you what the crumb looks like. All right, so let's take a look at this and see what it's like. Just gonna cut it right about here. It's hot. Better get an oven glove. Get my oven glove. So there you have it. Looks pretty good. All right, so nothing really more for me to say. So basically that's it. It's a bit of a time-consuming process, but really I'm looking at the clock now, it's not quite 11 o'clock. So it's taken me, what, 5 hours this morning, and 5 minutes, 10 minutes last night. So yeah, it's a really good thing to do when you have a free day and you want to have some really, really yummy French bread for the next week or two. So anyway, that's it. I hope this has been instructive. Good luck.